The grocery store was quiet that evening, almost too quiet for a place that usually buzzed with people rushing in and out. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a pale glow on the aisles lined with neatly stacked goods. A single father, Daniel, stood in line, holding a few bags of essentials, milk, bread, cereal, and a box of diapers for his toddler daughter, Lily. He wasn't a man who wasted time. Life had made him efficient, even hardened in some ways, but when his eyes caught the trembling hands of the young cashier, something in him slowed. Her fingers shook as she scanned the items, her face pale, her eyes trying hard not to meet anyone's gaze. It wasn't the kind of shaking caused by cold. No, this was deeper. A trembling that came from exhaustion, from hunger, from battles unseen. Without even thinking, Daniel asked softly why her hands were shaking. What happened next left him speechless. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unseen stories of ordinary people, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel, Stores Collection. Your support helps keep these life-changing stories alive. The cashier's name was Emma. She was young, no older than 23, with eyes that carried both beauty and sadness. She bit her lip, tried to steady herself, but her hands betrayed her. Daniel noticed how she avoided looking up as if ashamed of being noticed. Her voice was almost a whisper when she told him she hadn't eaten a proper meal in 2 days. She explained that most of her paycheck went to covering rent for a small apartment she shared with her younger brother, who was still in school. Their parents had abandoned them years ago, leaving Emma to carry the weight of 2 lives when she was barely strong enough to carry her own. Hunger, bills, and the never-ending cycle of survival had stripped her of her youth, and now here she was, fighting just to make it through her shift, even as her body begged for mercy. Daniel stood frozen. He had expected maybe nerves, or tiredness, but not this. Not the raw, heartbreaking honesty of someone who was quietly breaking in plain sight. Daniel knew struggle. After losing his wife in a car accident 2 years ago, he had been left to raise Lily alone. Nights spent crying into his pillow so his daughter wouldn't hear, mornings filled with work and exhaustion, and endless fears of whether he was enough. He had learned to mask his pain with strength because that's what single parents do. Yet seeing Emma that night was like looking into a mirror, 2 people battered by life, yet still standing because they had no choice. And in that shared understanding, something stirred inside him. Compassion, recognition, hope. He knew he couldn't just walk away. The line behind him grew longer, and people grew impatient, but Daniel didn't move. He gently told Emma to pause, and he asked the manager for a moment. He then did something that surprised everyone in line. He added a cart of groceries to his purchase. Fruits, vegetables, meat, pasta, rice, enough food to fill her kitchen. When Emma realized what he was doing, her eyes widened, and tears blurred her vision. She tried to protest, whispering that she couldn't accept it, that it wasn't right, but Daniel shook his head. He told her no one should ever have to fight hunger while working hard every day. His words weren't loud, but they carried a weight that silenced the whole line. People who had been impatient seconds before now watched in stunned quiet, their irritation replaced with something different, respect, maybe even shame for not noticing sooner. As Emma's shaking hands tried to cover her face, Daniel noticed how fragile she looked in that moment, like a candle flickering in the wind, on the verge of burning out. But there was something else too: strength. The kind of strength that keeps someone moving when their body begs them to stop. And in that moment, Daniel realized something profound. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who look the weakest, because no one knows how much they've already endured. He helped her bag the groceries himself, even as the cashier in her forgot she was supposed to be the one working. By the end, she couldn't stop crying, and Daniel couldn't stop thinking about how two broken people had just found each other in the most ordinary of places, a checkout line. Over the following days, Daniel couldn't shake the thought of Emma. Her trembling hands haunted him, but so did the quiet resilience in her eyes. He returned to the store again, not to shop, but to check on her. At first, Emma was embarrassed, but Daniel spoke to her as if she were an equal, not someone who needed pity. He told her about his own struggles, about the nights he had thought he wouldn't make it as a single dad, and how strangers' kindness had once saved him from despair. Emma listened, and for the first time in a long time, she felt less alone. Their conversations became longer, and slowly, she allowed herself to smile again. Weeks turned into months. Daniel found himself not only supporting Emma with groceries but encouraging her to apply for better jobs. He saw her potential, the intelligence and drive hidden beneath exhaustion. She began to believe in herself because someone finally believed in her. And Emma, in turn, became someone Daniel leaned on when parenting became overwhelming. She played with Lily, laughed with her, and for the first time since his wife's death, Daniel's home didn't feel so unbearably empty. Life didn't magically become easy. Bills still came, grief still visited Daniel at night, and Emma still faced the scars of her past. But together, they carried the weight a little lighter. Two people who thought they had nothing left discovered that kindness had given them everything: friendship, hope, and maybe even the beginnings of love. And all of it started because one man noticed a pair of shaking hands and dared to ask why. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with others who believe in kindness, and subscribe to Store's Collection. Every interaction helps us spread more stories that remind the world of the power of compassion and second chances. Speech balloon special request. Before you leave, please comment below with the words, "Kindness matters," if you believe that even the smallest act of care can change a life forever. The hum of the grocery store lights was strangely loud that evening. It was the kind of night where the world seemed to move slower, where every sound felt sharper, where exhaustion wrapped around people like a heavy blanket. Daniel, a single father, stood in line holding a small basket of essentials: bread, milk, cereal, and a pack of diapers for his daughter Lily. Life as a single parent had taught him to buy only what mattered, to stretch every dollar as far as it could go. His wife had died 2 years ago in a car accident that still haunted him in quiet moments, and since then he had been both father and mother, protector and provider, doing his best while secretly wondering if it was ever enough. As he waited, his eyes wandered to the young cashier scanning items for the customer ahead of him. She looked no older than 23, with pale skin and weary eyes that seemed to carry a lifetime of sorrow. But what caught his attention most were her hands. They were shaking, not the way hands sometimes tremble when a person is nervous, but the kind of tremor that came from deep exhaustion, from hunger, from an invisible fight against life itself. She fumbled with the scanner, tried to steady her fingers, but the tremors only grew worse. When it was finally his turn, Daniel placed his items on the counter, still watching her hands. His heart, hardened by years of struggle, softened in that instant. He asked quietly, almost hesitantly, "Why are your hands shaking?" For a moment, she froze. Her lips pressed together as if she were deciding whether to lie or tell the truth. Finally, in a voice so soft he almost didn't hear, she whispered, "I haven't eaten properly in 2 days." The words hit Daniel like a punch to the chest. He blinked, not sure he had heard correctly, but the tears welling in her eyes confirmed it. She explained in fragments, trying to keep her composure. Her name was Emma. She lived with her younger brother, who was still in high school. Their parents had walked out years ago, leaving her to raise him alone. Most of her paycheck went toward rent and his school expenses. By the time she paid the bills, there was nothing left for herself. That week had been especially hard, and she had been skipping meals so her brother could eat. The shaking was hunger, plain, cruel hunger. Daniel stood speechless. The woman in front of him wasn't lazy, wasn't careless, she was fighting for survival in a world that had given her nothing but burden. He saw himself in her. After his wife's death, he too had spent nights wondering how to keep the lights on, how to buy formula when money was tight. He knew what it meant to sacrifice food for someone else, to pretend you weren't hungry so your child could eat first. The people in line behind him grew impatient, sighing loudly, but Daniel didn't care. He stepped aside, grabbed a cart, and began filling it with groceries. Fruits, vegetables, pasta, rice, meat, bread, milk, everything he could think of that might fill her cupboards for weeks. Emma's face turned pale as she realized what he was doing. Tears slipped down her cheeks, and she shook her head, whispering that she couldn't accept it, that it wasn't right. But Daniel stopped her with a look. "No one working this hard should be starving," he said softly. His voice wasn't loud, but the conviction in it silenced the room. People who had been irritated moments earlier now stood watching in stunned quiet. By the time Daniel finished, Emma's hands were still trembling, but for a different reason. They shook from the weight of unexpected kindness, from the overwhelming feeling of being seen after so long of being invisible. She packed the groceries with tears falling freely, unable to stop them. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was carrying the world alone. And for Daniel, something shifted too. He had walked into the store burdened by his own struggles, but he walked out realizing that sometimes, healing comes not from being helped, but from helping someone else. He had asked a simple question out of concern, but her answer had changed both their lives. Sparkles, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unseen struggles of ordinary people, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to Store's Collection. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world compassion still matters.